There we go. That fool was out.
Yeah. Hold on, I turn the TV off so you can hear him. Like I told you, you sound like a fucking grizzly bear.
That's good though, man. Like you said, like he's starting to fucking breathe there though, right?
Not. He's not starting to breathe better now. It's until
Well, will.
obviously, until he heals up. Hold on. Shh. Hold
Sorry.
on. You good? He's out.
Yeah, man, he's getting it.
Yeah, he is.
Pulling them Z's. Why do you always get? Abigail's
He is.
destructive as fuck. She's always wanting to rip her fucking books apart and break shit.
That's not good, Abigail. Don't do that.
Yeah, she's violent. It's all my fault. Oh man. So that was weird about yesterday, like my Instagram, man, the Joe Rogan experience following me. That's weird.
Yeah, man. I was wondering what how did that happen? So here's my question to you: Are you using hashtags in your video? I
Not
mean,
as I
in
have
the
never
video.
hashtag not once. I've
So how?
never and that's the thing, man. I've never hashtagged. I I just put up that clip that you put on Instagram on the Beans, Bullets, and Bullshit page, the one of me and you and Brandon, the little teaser. I just
Yeah.
put that on my Instagram today. Like I just did that, and beforehand, I've only uploaded a few pictures and shit like that to Instagram. Like I'm not heavy on Instagram. I'm just now starting to get into it. But what I have been heavy on is Twitter. I've been fucking heavy on Twitter, but
Yeah.
still, like, I have no idea why they fucking liked like before I liked
So
I liked Joe
what's your
Rogan.
Twitter,
You know what I mean?
what's your
I didn't
Twitter
even like the
handle
podcast.
name? What's your Twitter handle name? Like what's the name of it?
It's me. It's the same. It's Daniel.Smith 1833. It's the same
So
for it's
that's
yeah.
why. That's why. So have you I know you said you've been heavy on on Twitter.
Mm.
Um
Best
so
cereal ever.
dude, I went through two boxes in here.
Dog.
Two boxes.
I
Two
will.
boxes.
I'll run a train on some motherfucking Fruity Pebbles, brother. I will fuck up a box of Fruity Pebbles.
Bro. So this I went through this box. This is like the regular box, and then there's the family box. 4 days, bro. 4 days. I fucking ran through those two boxes.
I think my daughter's eating her boogers. I think Abigail's eating her boogers.
That's
Abigail,
amazing.
stop picking your boogers, baby. Come
Do it. Do it.
on.
Do it now.
I used to eat the shit out of my boogers, man. Come here.
I cannot confirm nor deny whether I did or not, but I know at some point in my life I was 3 years old. So
Well,
I can just make the assumption that I did.
I'm not going to be ashamed to say that my recollection of eating boogers far surpassed 3 years old.
You nasty fucker.
I will not be ashamed to say that my booger eating well way into I don't know, at least older than 3.
I was about to say, how long is this motherfucker gonna say he's been eating boogers for?
I don't know. I can't say that I was doing it till I was a teenager because I can't honestly say that I didn't, but I can honestly say that I don't remember. So it quite possibly it
Anything,
could have.
anything past age 8, and your parents need their ass beat.
Oh man.
So there's no way you can see an 8-year-old and he's 8 and he's digging in his nose and fucking mom and dad don't know.
Yeah, well, I was a pretty fucking shitty child though, and my parents were decent, but I don't know. I'm just fucking giving myself a hard time, but I will fuck. When I was a kid, so Fruity Pebbles is my favorite cereal as an adult, but as a kid, it was like Golden Grams and Cinnamon Toast Crunch, and I used to mix the two together and eat shit like
Speaking of
that.
cinnamon, speaking of cinnamon toast crunch, do you remember French toast crunch?
Crunch Toast Crunch?
Oh
No,
wait, no, cinnamon toast crunch. Have you seen this? I just bought this the other day.
Strawberry Toast Crunch. What?
Yeah,
I bet you that shit's
it's
probably pretty good.
it's dope. It tastes pretty good, but it's not like fucking it's not sweet like So that's why I bought like I don't really eat cereal too much no more just because like it's too sugary and shit. But
Very sugary.
when I do, it's Fruity Pebbles. Like but I actually think that the bag Fruity Pebbles, the Fruity Dino Bites, I think those are like way better than the
I've never
regular
had
Fruity
those.
Pebbles.
I've never had those. I'm not a
Yo,
communist.
they're they're like little they're like little crunched up flakes of diabetes. They're so fucking good.
Dude, I'll tell you what, man. Again, I keep on seeing over and over about how, it's not so much fats and all that shit that was bad for you, but sugars and carbs. Processed sugar and a shit ton of carbohydrates is all the thing, or excuse me, the main contributors that lead to a lot of degenerative heart disease and degenerative brain disease. I mean, all kinds of shit, that is starting to come out and it's starting to be circulated by people whom I trust. I trust their opinion in those circles. You know what I mean? And yeah, a lot of it's just processed sugars and carbs, or stay away from them, man. And I have been like I've been really cutting out fucking processed sugar and carbs out of my daily diet, and you feel it. For me anyway, I have definitely felt and seen um, results in my overall fucking state of health and in my body composition since I've intentionally started to cut out processed sugars and carbs. You know what I mean?
Well, I will say this. I will say that the healthiest that I've ever been in my entire well, I don't say my entire life, but the healthiest I've been in the last 10 years was on fucking deployment. Like,
Oh yeah, of course.
and that was the healthiest. And when I tell you, like, I'm talking about like overall, like physical fitness, food intake, all that shit.
Oh yeah.
Like, it was definitely deployment. And like, we went on diets, bro. Like, the only carbs that I was eating chicken, you know what I mean, and eating chicken, eating a lot of rice and shit like that. But throughout the day, I'd eat like 7 or 8 fucking whole fruits. You know what I mean? Like, I'd eat a banana, I'd eat a couple apples. You know what I mean? Like, and that's how I got to finally, after my entire life of struggling trying to gain weight, I got to 175 pounds. So like, I'm happy of it. But then, like, as soon as we got back from deployment, man, I didn't realize how healthy I was until I got back. And when I got back, I want to say I had a Burger King, like a double Whopper or some shit like that. Got back, had a double Whopper,
Did you
then
die?
got on the road, and was coming home or whatever to come see the family, and like it was the most miserable drive I ever had. Like,
Yeah.
just pain in my stomach, pain in my body, like it was horrible. So I know for a fact that like the food that I ingest now is shit. I know it. I know it's shit. It's just a matter of you not having access to a lot of stuff, and then it's kind of hard too when you're like when you had the same eating habits for years and you just try to up and change it. Like, there's rejection on the family side and all that stuff, so it's hard. But at the end of the day, the only person that's making me put this food in my mouth is me, so I can't really come up with
Yeah, and you're absolutely right, man. Not only is it hard as shit, especially when you're trying to implement a specific way of eating in a family where not everyone gives a fuck.
yeah,
But you have to give a shit. You know what I mean? So if you don't truly give a fuck about the way you eat, you're not going to do it.
yeah.
You know what I mean? So that's got to be super hard. And it's been super hard for me to try to implement, like you said, healthy eating habits when you're in a household where that's not a priority. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it's hard, man. It is. It super is.
I
But
mean, my wife, me and her both, like, we grew up on soul food. Her mom could fucking cook her ass off, like,
everything's fried.
make the best. But it's not everything's not fried. Like, her mom could just fucking cook her ass off. She makes like some of the best fucking plantation plates in the world, if you want to call it that.
Plantation. I've never heard that either, man. I've never heard it called that either. That's funny though. It's
you
man,
know,
I must be out of the South for a long fucking time, man. I got to get back to the South. I really do.
yeah, bro. I mean, but that I don't know. That's just a. I guess that's just a fucking.
That can't be another black thing, man. There's no way. There's no
Dude, I
way.
mean, I don't. I've heard it. I'm not gonna say it's another black thing, but I've only heard black people say it. Like,
Dog, it was so funny.
I've heard other people like reference it, but I mean, when you say plantation plate, like what the fuck else could you be talking about?
Exactly,
Like,
exactly.
you know what I mean? Like,
It was so funny, man. Like I was talking to my buddy Alex yesterday, and it was funny. What the fuck were we talking about? We were talking about some kind of a current political cultural issue or whatever, and I was like, you know what? Surprising or contrary to popular belief, I have a lot of black people in my life who are very close to me, whom I fucking hold very close, and you know
yeah.
what? We probably have differences of opinions in a lot of shit. Does that make me love them any less, or does that make them love me any less? I don't think so. You know what I mean? And it was just so fun. It was one of those things too, man. Like, whenever you have the race discussions, or especially societal and cultural fucking positions that they society and culture the positions they want you to have. I love getting those discussions like that because I love not fitting in the box that culture and society want to place me in as far as
Yeah,
race
yeah.
is concerned. You know what I mean? And it's just, ugh, I hate it. I hate it. I hate it. And
I'm
all the
telling
shit that's going
you,
on
like,
with guns and shit. Ugh. Ugh.
I think it's funny. Like, I so I got into an argument, and it's gonna. You know who Talib Kweli is, right? The
The
rapper. He's
rapper,
like,
yeah, Talib Kweli, yeah, yeah.
yeah. So I got into an argument with him on Twitter years ago about like a lot of like Black History stuff. Not really an argument, but like more or less, I was like challenging some of the stuff he was saying, or some of the stuff that his people were saying,
Mm.
or his followers or whatever on Twitter. And like, I shouldn't have did it because literally I'm like brand new to Twitter, and like I really didn't give a fuck. It was just one of those things. Like, I don't have shit else to do, so why not?
You were
I guess
doing
you
a
could call it
Twitter battle.
trolling. I guess you could call it trolling. I don't really look at it that
You
way.
were trolling, dude.
Sure. But but it's like I challenge the whole concept of being black in the first place, right? Like, just the title of being black, like being a black guy. You know what I mean? So like the way I challenge that is like, first off, like I am the most, I wouldn't say the most, but I am a pro black guy. Like, I love everything African history, like all kinds of stuff African related. Like, I fucking love
You
it. You know what
should
I mean?
be. You should be happy of your culture. You should be proud of it.
Right. However, what I challenge though is the name and the audacity and how it relates to history. So somebody was like, and what brought me to this was my son, right? My son kind of opened my eyes to this. He goes, one day I was putting on,
Oh, you
I was
told me
getting him
this.
dressed.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm getting him dressed, and I'm like, hey, what do you want to wear? What shoes do you want to wear? And he's like, I want to wear the dark blue shoes. And I'm like, oh, why? Is that your favorite color? And he looks at me like real strange, like, no, like my favorite color is brown. And I'm like, he looked at me and he said, I said, what's your favorite color? And he said, brown. And I was
Yeah.
kind of like confused. I said, why is brown your favorite color? He goes, because my skin is brown, right? and I got like, I initially, like, my first reaction was like, I was fucking pretty upset. Like who the fuck is teaching my son this? Right? Like, because he's obviously, I'm taking his ass to daycare every day. Like, who the fuck is teaching my son this? But then as I'm in the car and I'm driving and I'm like upset and I'm kind of stewed about this, I look at my hand. My hand is brown, and I look at my steering wheel cover,
Which is
and
black.
it's black, and I can clearly see a difference.
You just had that realization. You had a moment.
So
Clarity.
yeah, and that's why I say, the youth, like, you got to listen to the youth. Like, they may not be conscious of what the fuck they're talking about, but you got to listen to the youth, because they will drop some gems on you. So the question that I started asking people was like, okay, when were you considered black? Who told you that you was black? Right? He was like, oh, my mom taught me that I was black, and then somebody else taught him
Well,
that he
what's
was
that
black.
mean to be black?
Right.
Exactly.
So so that was my thing. I was like, well, what other names were people that look like me? That's the phrase that I kind of use now to avoid saying black or white or whatever. You know what I mean? Like people that look like me. I say, well, what were they? What are they? What other names do they give now? Let's say, well, African American, right? Well, African Americans won. So when did you start getting called African American? People didn't start getting called African American until 1988 when Jesse Jackson brought it out.
Go
Right?
anywhere else in the
Or
world
that,
and ask what black people are called. They're not called Indian Africans or fucking African Indians or African fucking Irishmen or anything like that, you know?
exactly. So that's the argument that I challenge. Now, don't get me wrong. Again, I am as pro African, like support all kinds of stuff. Like I'm all about it. I've been all about it, and that's not going to change just because I realize that the diaspora of America
Nor
and the way
should you.
it is ran and I understand that dynamic fucking exists, and at some point in time, we as a collective are affected by it simply because of the ignorance of the rest of the people. You know what I mean? Like for lack of a better term, I say for lack of a better term, I'm a black guy, right? Like just for lack of a better
Just
term.
for exactly, yeah. Just for
right,
simplification purposes.
right. And so then you start to realize like, holy shit, this was just used for identification purposes, right? Just like you said, like when you start looking back at history, you realize that was a status. Like being a black person was a status.
Look at marriage licenses. You know where a marriage license started? You know why marriage licenses were created? To make sure white women weren't marrying black men.
Agreed.
That's why marriage licenses were created. You know?
Yep. And then when you tell somebody, oh, the first gun laws were created to stop the people that were considered black, to stop them from getting fucking guns, right? And to justify the killing of those people that had guns in the eyes of the government, like were black people, you're like, oh, people don't realize that. But
well, you know, like the NRA, one of the first things they did was fucking train and teach freed black people who became slaves to defend themselves from motherfuckers like the KKK and shit like that. Like the NRA did that. You know what I mean? The NRA was people who fucking wanted to arm the fucking the newly freed blacks to defend themselves. You know what I mean? And that's people don't know that. You're absolutely fucked, man. I hate the ignorance of this.
My point is, and this always brings me back, like it always brings me back like to Africa. I say, well, who were the people that look like me? Who were they before they were considered black? Before they were considered black, who were they? They were African Americans. Before they considered that, what were they considered? They were considered Negroes. Before that, they were considered niggas, and before that, they were considered slaves. And before that, they were considered those people from Western Africa, right? And it always led me back down to this rabbit hole of trying to figure out if, like, the lost family, you know what I mean? Like my lost family, kind of brought me to there. Who my family was prior to. Like every other group of people in America can kind of really narrow down where their family is from based off of historical lineage and whatnot. And kind of can say, you know, oh, you know, my dad's Irish and his dad's fucking, you know, Irish, and his dad came over here during this time, and this is their family line and their family tree.
Yeah, you want to trace your lineage. Yeah.
But when you start looking at black people, it kind of ends at either being some of the indigenous people that were here prior to the colonial days or slaves. So I always get stuck in this position like, who am I? Like, I know who I am now, but who was I? What historical value did the people of my ancestry bring to this world other than fucking, you know, really building the foundation of, like, physically building the foundation of the capitalistic society of America? You know what I mean? Like, who was I before that? And it leads me to always question when other people kind of project their insecurities on me, like, oh, you're a black guy, like, this is where you're from, this is what it is. Like, nah, dude, like, you're not getting ready to do that. If you're going to have some pertinent information to tell me, make sure you tell me who I am and kind of date what kind of tribe I came from or anything like that. People just can't fucking do that shit. So everyone tries to project their insecurities on you and say who you are because they don't know anything. And it's just upset that that's the society that we live in nowadays, that they use those same exact things to put that on everything. Like they use that same exact thing when it comes with homosexuals, gays, lesbians, Democrats and Republicans, and you know what I mean. Like
judgment,
they do
man. It's judgment. It's that's a human trait, brother. Like, and that's why I always get really stern, mean looks from people when I always tell them, like, race has so much non-meaning for me, because I've just been so many places around the world. Enough. I've been around enough places. I know, baby, and I've met enough people to where I'm comfortable saying that it's all the problems in race and culture and society. They're human issues. You know what I mean? Go anywhere on the planet, in any country, amongst any race, and you're gonna find all the same kind of problems, all the same fucking basis, because they're human problems. They're not race or culture, society or nation problems. I mean, yes, they're all unique in their own way, but all of them are similar in the way that it's one group of people that doesn't like another group of people for whatever fucking reason, be it legitimate or illegitimate. You know what I mean? It's all universal, man. And that's why I always get in trouble when I say that race just is so. God bless you. God bless you. For me personally, I know how much it means to a lot of people. God bless you. And that's what sucks to me is that race. God bless you. Yeah, stop sneezing. Yeah. Um, Race does mean so much to so many people, and I completely 100% understand and sympathize with that. But for me, like I said, I care about so many people from all different fucking races and creeds and nations and religions, and other people of all the same care about me, and it just the judgments of others, like you said, because their differences in race or culture. I hate that. You know what I mean? I hate that more than anything. And it's not even race, it's societal too. For me, I hate so much judgment in the elitist class of people. People whom I believe consider themselves to be literally better than others because of their social status. The celebrity class, the athlete class, the political class of people who really think that they're better. That's what I can't stand. But you can also, like I said, correlate that to race and judgment.
I go so far as to say everything in the name of the concept of race is bullshit in itself. Like the very name and idea of race is bullshit. Like if you look at the word race, it didn't start getting used in the capacity of culture, religion, place, birth of origin, language, or anything. That it didn't start being used like that until 1600 and until the 1600s in the colonial days. Before then, race literally meant a starting point and an ending point where people are traveling as fast as possible. Like that's what it fucking meant. So now this magical word called race comes into play where we're using it to categorize all these group of different peoples. So it made me wanna research like why the word came about in that matter, like why it ended up changing. And like you can date it back to change it within the Webster's dictionary and everything. Like the exact point of when these words started coming about. And I started like really researching it, and I found out that the word race literally comes from the economic concept of countries from Italy and France and the British and the Portuguese, all of them racing over to the Americas, racing over to the Caribbeans to try to capitalize on this economic land in order to kind of bring their place into a superior status over there in Europe. It was literally a race of the Spanish, the French, the British, the Italians, the Portuguese. All of these different countries are trying to solidify themselves on an economic point.
You're saying the word race came from that?
I'm saying that's how. I'm not going to say that that's where it came from. I'm saying that the word race and the capacity that it is used, the only connection that I can find, the only logical connection that I can find when it got changed into a categorization of people started there. Because when you start to categorize race, like you say, okay, this person's Mexican, this person's Italian, this person's Puerto Rican, this person's so on and so forth, right? But if that didn't, the most prominent event that was happening during that time in the 1600s was the transatlantic slave trade. Nobody else across the other seven seas uses race in that capacity except us, right? Because that's an English word. So if you start talking to other people in other countries and other languages, and you say, "Hey, what race are you?" in their language, they'll look at you like, "What the fuck are you mean a starting point from one place to another?" It's just because that word has another implication. What's the word I'm looking for? It's a
That's what I mean. It's a synonym.
synonym. There you go. It's a synonym. But when you start trying to use and translate that word into other languages in that capacity, there's no definition for it. There's no definition for race. And then on top of that, look at how fucking vague it is, right? Like you're using this as a categorization process, but it's the most vague determination that you can make. Like somebody's fucking place that they were born, or their religion, or their skin color, or you know what I mean? Like all these different things, or their culture. These are the things that kind of define someone as a specific race. So if I was to say I'm white, does that mean that I had to have been born in Europe? No. Or I can say, oh, he's black, but he's your complexion, but he was born in South America. Does that make him a black guy? No. Like it's so many contradictions that roll in between all of this stuff that no one's considering. And I just had to break it down to the most common denominator, which ended up becoming fucking transatlantic slave trade when the word initially started being used in that capacity. Because before then, all of these people were trying, all these different countries, literally after the Portuguese fucking, after the Portuguese came over and started, getting over to South Americas, that's when all that stuff started happening in the Caribbean. That's when all that stuff started happening. So it just kind of made me want to think like what race actually is, as opposed to what people actually believe it to be. And it's still to this day it baffles me. Like it doesn't make sense. It doesn't make sense.
Yeah, I'm on the online etymology dictionary, and I'm still not even sure even what the fuck etymology means.
So
That's probably
etymology,
showing my fucking ignorance. I know.
no. So it's simple. Etymology, etymology is the breakdown of words using the root word, the prefix, and the suffix. Right. So all you do is you figure out what the prefix is doing, you figure out what the root word is, and then you figure out how the suffix how it applies to everything. So, for example, if I was to say, say, for example, a scientist, right? The root word of scientist is science, and then the ist as that characteristic or as that job for a specific person.
Yeah,
So a
Latin,
scientist,
all the language. Yeah, all the Latin breakdown from
right?
Yeah.
So that's what technology is the breakdown of those words, and figure out what the prefix does, figure out what the prefix is explaining, figure out what the prefix
Yeah.
does, and then figure out what the root word is, and you literally have the definition of every fucking word.
Yeah, I mean, because everything is almost every single fucking language or word in the English language comes from Latin or Greek in some way.
Exactly. Mm-hmm. So if you look at
Yeah.
racism, it doesn't like when you look at that word racism, it doesn't make fucking sense. Like when you break it down in etymology, and they say, "Oh, well, you just have to use a definition of race as in a
Well, I mean,
person."
even regardless of wherever words used, set where they can, any of that stuff, literally, you know what I mean? Human characteristics, human behavior, and human traits are what's common or uncommon amongst people. You know what I mean?
Right.
Regardless of race, culture, religion, all that shit. You know what I mean? The way you choose to treat yourself, your family, and the way you choose to treat others is what is really common or uncommon. You know what I mean? I mean, like I said before, everywhere you go, race, country, everywhere, you have good people and bad people. and everywhere else that falls somewhere in between. Huh, baby. You know what I mean? And that fall every single group of people in the world has its good guys and its bad guys. And regardless, I mean, that's in religions, that's in politics, that's in governments, that's in society, whatever. You have the good and the bad, and no group of people anywhere is free from corrupt or dishonest or fucking bad people. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And people try to fucking have this. I I I don't think you should ever stop trying to be. I'm not gonna say perfect, but to be, to be as errorless as possible, if that makes sense, errorless, if that's a word. But I mean, people have this real standard of perfection in regards to the way things are, existence and reality, and like everything what's going on with all this gun shit right now. Like people want to be completely safe always, and it's like, look, man, you want to be completely safe always, you're in the wrong life. You know what I mean? Like you're in the wrong existence. You know what I mean? And I don't think people should ever stop working towards the most efficient set all whatever. I don't think you should ever stop setting that as a standard. But if you're expecting that perfection, and if you're expecting that complete sense of safeness and everything like that, I think that's very irresponsible, irrational, and unreasonable. You know what I mean?
The problem is that everyone has their own determination based on their culture, based off of their morals,
Yeah.
as to what that heightened sense of efficiency is. You know what I mean? Like if you were in New York, as saying you in New York City, like having guns, walking around with fucking rifles on your back is like there's nothing efficient about that. All you're doing is scaring the public just because they're completely ignorant of all things gun related. But in Arizona, like that shit's okay. Like you can walk around with a fucking musket on your back. Like who gives a shit? You know what I mean?
Well, I
So
mean that point doesn't. I mean that's a little extreme.
no, I
But
mean, but the reason I'm referencing that though is because that person that's walking down the street with a musket on his back, he thinks that he's being efficient at that point in time. So he cannot inject himself in an area where the overall society does not believe that it's a good thing. You know what I mean? Like that's the reason why there's gun laws within the state of New York City, and the gun laws that are not New York City, but in New York State, there's a reason why there's gun laws there, and why the people in Arizona wouldn't be able to do the same things they do. It's because the cultures are completely different. The coaches are so in Arizona. They believe, yep, we could operate in an efficient manner and maintain these guns. But in New York and New Jersey, we can't operate in an efficient manner with these guns. It's all of a matter of it's a perspective matter, and no one wants to take any of that into consideration. They just want to kind of make it the indefinite for everyone, and it's bullshit. It's bullshit. It
well,
upsets me.
yeah. Regardless, I mean, take away the gun ass. I do partially agree with what you're saying. But unfortunately, just no one's going to be all the same everywhere. You know what I mean? Like
Right.
people
Right.
who feel the same way, or people in Arizona. There are people in New York who feel the exact same way as those in Arizona, and vice versa. You know what I mean? Um,
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
but on take away the because the gun aspect, to me personally, it's a bad reference because the Second Amendment wasn't about guns; it was about self-defense. That's why it's the second. That's why it's the Second Amendment. The first one being five liberties in the First Amendment. Religion, speech, petition, press, and assembly are the five rights guaranteed for you in the First Amendment. And the Second Amendment, the one being the fucking ones to bear arms, is because weapons existed at the time, firearms existed at the time. You know what I mean? So it's not a right to fucking have your guns; it's a right to defend yourself, and that's why it's the second one because it's so important. The right to defend yourself is so important. It holds up all the other amendments. You know what I mean? Like that's why it's number two. The first one being religion, speech, and all the other ones, but the second one being in defense of yourself and all of those other rights. You know what I mean? So
Mm-hmm.
I'm a pretty Second Amendment absolutist. It's not about guns. It's about the right to self defense. So and anyway, but I completely understand and agree with the aspect that you're talking about in any other argument. Where people of one state, one city, whatever the case, completely feel differently and live differently than people of the others, and we've talked about this before in whole states' rights. And that's why, like, I share the exact same thing is what's right for people in New York is not right for people in Arizona. You know what I mean? But
Mm-hmm.
like I said, guns is a bad example to use there because it's just the right to me. It's the right to self-defense, which it is. But you know,
You know me though, I consider myself a fucking an anarchist. You know what I mean? Like an ethical.
but you're not though. You're not though. You're not
But
an
I
anarchist.
see see like people take the term anarchy and they fucking they misconstrue it because they're
Anarchy
like
is very specific meaning, though. Anarchy has a
it,
very specific meaning.
it has a very specific meaning, but its applicability is imaginary. Like it's never fucking happened.
What are you
It's never
talking about? Anarchy is never before the Western civilization. Anarchy still in today's world, man. Like there are still places of anarchy all around the world.
where
Are you kidding? There's places of anarchy here in fucking Detroit where there's absolutely no semblance of law enforcement or government. Same thing in Chicago. That's
so
anarchy, is where people have the
no,
freedom to
no,
live as they want.
they still fall under the jurisdiction of the law. Like just because law enforcement isn't physically there in the presence
So
of
anarchy is not happening just because of the way the laws are?
anarchy falls under a system of government that makes the government non-existent, that makes the people do whatever the fuck they want to do. So when you look at anarchy, it's where it's there's nothing that exists as far as government is concerned. There's no ruler and there's no rules, and motherfuckers are doing whatever the fuck they want to do. That's anarchy. The problem with
Everywhere
using
in
the
the Middle
example
East.
of the problem with using the example of Detroit and Chicago is because eventually law enforcement is going to come. Eventually, motherfuckers are going to get arrested, and eventually they're going to fall right under the American
So
the
to you,
American
what you're
government.
saying is that anarchy is the act of anarchy isn't what's important, but the semblance of government is what defines anarchy, is what you're saying. Like if there
No,
is an actual fucking
the lack of the semblance of government. Like there's no government. When there's no government and people can do whatever the
so
fuck
there okay, so
people do.
anarchy can't take place if you have a state with a government. Is that what you're saying?
Yes, that's
Okay.
exactly what I'm saying. That's exactly what I'm saying.
Give me 1 second. I gotta get the other control and turn this down. I don't want fucking people just hearing damn Madagascar in the background. Okay, so you're saying that anarchy, regardless of what's actually taking place. So if like, if there was this huge horrible thing happening in whatever fucking city, that's not anarchy happening because it's happening in a city with a government and everything like that.
As long as there's a situation where there eventually government rule using some type of threat, duress, and coercion or some type of incentive to be able to rule, you cannot have anarchy.
So you're saying that and that, correct me if I'm wrong, anarchy is more or less almost a political system almost then
No,
because
I'm saying anarchy, if you was to categorize it in a political system, it's there's no
is the
leader, there's
lack
no
thereof.
politics. Yeah, it's a
Yeah, it's
lack
the
thereof.
lack thereof. Okay, so anarchy, by your definition, has nothing to do with violence or the lack of law or anything like that. Like there can't be an event that is anarchy because it's in like a state. You know what I mean? That's what I'm at. That's what I'm asking. There can't
I
be an
don't look
event
at
that's anarchist.
yeah, I don't look at it as an event. I look at it as a state of being. An event is
So
just
okay,
because
okay.
they still fall. When you look at anarchy, they still fucking
Let's
fall.
look up the definition.
Sure,
Let's
let's see,
look up what it says.
let's see what we got.
No, because that's the thing, man. Like I think that anarchy can be an event. Like you can have it can be complete and total anarchy in Paris and the fucking the night of the Paris attacks. That was anarchy at the time. That's what I would describe
Okay,
that as. You know what I mean?
fair enough. Yeah, when I look at anarchy as a lack thereof of government, a lack of rulers, a
Anarchy.
lack of rules, and everybody is doing whatever the fuck they want to.
A state of disorder due to absence or non-recognition of authority. Yeah, so you're absolutely right. But I mean, that could be, like I said, and it could also be at any point in time. You know what I mean?
Agreed. Fair enough. I mean, we can look at it on ways, but I'm not. I'm saying and this is where I get troubled with the concepts of fucking life, liberty, and the pursuit to happiness, right? Or the life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness and property, right? Like this kind of falls in line a little bit, like on the same line of libertarianism, but it's like, listen, as long as I don't do anything to fucking impede with your life, liberty, and pursuit of happiness, then we should be able to dwell. And when I say anything, I mean anything. And this is gonna sound fucking extreme and far-fetched, but if I want to have a fucking house full of grenades, I should be able to have a house full of grenades.
I completely agree with you.
As long as I don't pull the fucking pin, because I live in a townhouse, right? I live in a townhouse that's fucking connected to other people. Like, as long as I don't pull the pin and fuck up somebody else's shit, then I should be able to do whatever the fuck I want to do. If I want to drive down a road with a tank, and as long as I'm not fucking crashing into nobody else's shit or fucking up anybody else's shit or shooting off rounds into commercial districts, like, I should be able to do whatever the fuck I want to do. So as long as I do not impede on your life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, right?
I completely agree with you. And I could have, I mean, and obviously you can draw all the metaphorical circumstances of what, of the example you made with the tank. You know
Yeah,
what I mean?
absolutely.
But I completely understand the point you're making, and I agree. Like I feel almost as if I had to define myself, it would be, and I hate saying libertarian because libertarian is an actual party, and I am not represented by the Libertarian Party. You know what I mean?
Right.
But if I had to define myself, man, I would say I'm a classical liberal, like, because I am a very liberal person. I'm extremely liberal.
Yeah, not the new style liberal.
No,
like
not what is considered today.
It is. Because when you look at, and this goes back to breaking shit down and using etymology, right? Like, if you look at the word liberal, the AL in liberal, the AL at the end of it adds that characteristic to a specific person. But the root word is liberty, right? So liberty literally means the ability to do whatever the fuck you want to do, right? Like, so a liberal would in turn be somebody that wants to do whatever they want to do, right? So the term liberal now has been so like misconstrued and convoluted,
people I'm a liberal, man.
and it's changed. But and then if you look at the word, the conservative, right? The conservative is the person that wants to conserve what, when you look at conservative as a person that wants to conserve what they have, right? If it's, I want to conserve this little piece of fucking bread that I have so that I can
conserve your values, conserve your money, conserve your liberty.
Right. So conservatives and liberals really they have this, they should be synonyms. And what do you call them? Not synonyms. What do you call them? Where two words have the same meaning. What do you call that?
Oh yeah, fuck. I don't know. I asked this the other day. I know what you're talking about though. Yeah.
So for the people that's listening, you guys are gonna fucking hear this and be like, I can't find a word right now. But those pretty much mean the same thing. Like, the government or the founding fathers, or however you want to fucking look at it, these guys wanted to conserve the ideas that came about right after the American Revolutionary War, right? The Articles of Federation came out, and they wanted to fucking really create a foundation for the people on this land.
Yeah, but they did not, like, they were by no means conservatives. That, like, that word wasn't even around. I mean, the word was around, but the definition for conservative.
Right. So what I'm getting at though is when the ideas of conservatives came about, it was, we need to conserve what was created within the Constitution, because everything that comes from the Constitution, the majority of it is all ratifications from the Articles of Confederation, right? Like, a lot of things happen in the Articles of Confederation. They're like, oh shit, we fucked up some stuff. Let's do this new document, right? And they fucked up a lot. Like, when you go back and read Confederation, really, that shit, is that how things were going to be ran back then? And it's like, hold up, let's scratch this. You know what I mean? 1776 comes about, or 75, whatever one of them. And let's fucking make this new document, right? So the conservatives are really like, hey, let's conserve the liberty that we were given based off of this document that was created. And the liberals are like, yeah, we were already doing that. So it's like, how the fuck do we now get to conservatives and liberals that are on?
It's just the hijacking of words, man. It's just the hijacking. It's the labeling. That's all it is. You know what I mean? Like that's like the word progressives. Like progressive today considered what a liberal was in the '90s, and liberals. I mean, it just changes. It's just the people and the definitions and the labeling. It all fucking changes over time, huh, baby? Because it's people just trying to fucking use what's the best kind of words to fucking get their point across, to label them, all that shit. You know what I mean? Look at what people's actions are. Look at what they fucking truly do and what they support. Don't look at the fucking the because do I think fucking Donald Trump is a conservative, let alone a Republican? Fuck no. He's been a Democrat his entire life. You know what I mean? And just because he ran and put a little R next to his name, people fucking think he's this Republican, and he's not. You know what I mean? And so I hate putting fucking any kind of weight in labels, and I always look at what they fucking do. You know what I mean? Because words, like we're talking about right now, like exactly the point you just made. You know, people who would say they're a liberal or a conservative might completely be on the same side. What are you doing, weirdo? On the same team in certain fucking issues. You know what I mean? But they consider, what are you doing, weirdo? Stop. Why are you being crazy? What are you doing? But I try not to fucking put any weight in that and look at really what you believe in. What are your real beliefs? What do you true? You know, because like today, I can't believe that the Republican president, is talking about fucking like amnesty and fucking citizenship and putting gun regulations and all kinds of shit. And these were all positions just during the election that were extremely fucking like unthought of for Republicans. Like Marco Rubio, he lost fucking in his race and because of his amnesty beliefs, because of his immigration beliefs, and now it's like this widely fucking embraced thing. And that's why, like, when people fucking talk about the words conservatives, liberals, all that shit, like, people fucking can tell you who they are and say they label themselves with whatever fucking word that you agree with. But just look at their actions. What do they truly do? What do they truly believe in? Ask them. Don't fucking just believe what people tell you or what they want to show you or what they say they are. You know what I mean? Like, don't do that, man. Like, because people are so eager to believe. Like, how do you think people who are selfish with bad intentions convince others to get them to do what they want? They tell them what they want to hear. They deceive. They flatter. Look at who I look. Oh, these are the things I believe. But look at what they fucking do, and they're just self-serving fucking assholes, man.
That,
But
and that's why when it comes down to like figuring that out, like establishing those questions, like I use it in the form of Socratics, man. Like is I use the fucking Socratic method to a T. Like I will ask you a question, and the moment I see that your answer deviates from your action, I'm gonna ask you another fucking question, and that question is gonna have to do with your action this time, right? And then all you're gonna do is expose yourself to the public, as opposed to me asking you like, "Oh, do you like fucking brown couches?" And you're like, "No, I don't like brown couches." And I'm like, Well, what about the brown couch in your house? Why is that in your house? And you're like, I got it because of my fiance. And you're like, well, if you don't like it, do you like your couch more than your fiance? Like, it's all about questioning. It's asking these same questions. And I'm doing it for two reasons. Reason one is because I could look at based off of your answers and say like, okay, you're full of shit. And then the reason two is like, well, maybe I could actually be enlightened by some of the shit that you're saying right now. Maybe I could actually fucking learn something.
Maybe I could listen and learn.
But usually when people see that I'm doing that, right? When I usually what happens is whenever you start asking these people these questions, they get upset. Hold on, let me check on AJ real quick. He's out.
Is he still passed out? Good.
But usually what happens is, like, people will engage in dialogue with you all fucking day. But the moment you ask a question that's fucking damaging to them, where you're literally just trying to get them to prove their point, they fucking go straight into the name calling and all kind of shit. Like, oh, you fucking asshole. And then they start to try to ask you questions about your point. Like, nah, dude, I'm trying to pick your brain. I'm trying to figure out what you're talking about. I'm trying to get on a wavelength with you so I can at least figure out how you operate. You know what I mean? And you're gonna in turn fucking ask me questions? Like, nah, dude, that's not how this works. Like, I'm fucking questioning you right now.
That's like with you know, a lot about this gun debate right now. You know, people want government to solve everything, and I would first tell them, look, first of all, when you want to solve a problem, you should never look at government first. Government is the worst at fixing everything, you know, and you know, on top of that, I would tell people, you know, oh, people who typically want guns taken away, I would say, okay, so you're probably, if you want all guns taken away, let me ask you, do you like the president? Do you like Donald Trump? And most of the case, people would say no. And to which I would also say, so you want the only people to have guns to be the cops and the Trump fucking presidency, the government, the Trump government? Those are the only people you want to have guns?
I go deeper than that. My question is, sure, okay, so great. We ban guns, right? So my first question is, if you ban guns, does that stop all people from being killed with guns?
Of course not.
Right? And then you know, obviously the person that I would be debating with, or not debating, but you know, trying to pick their brain, they'd be like, yeah, well, if there's no guns, then you know, obviously people can't die from guns. So I say, okay, fine. Clearly, this guy doesn't know what the fuck I'm talking about. So the next question that I ask is, okay, well, how are you going to get the guns? There's 33 million guns, and out of those 33 million guns,
there is way more. There's way more.
I'm talking about just in America. Just in America.
Yeah, there's more guns than there are people.
Sure. Okay, so we'll go with that. So that's what, like,
there's over 330 million people in America, and there's more weapons than there are people.
Maybe that's the stat I was looking for. Sure. Yeah. We'll go with 330. Yeah. We'll go 330, right? 330. Half of those people, we can say at least more than half, don't want to give their guns up.
Over half.
Yeah. Over half of those people don't want to give their guns up. Yeah. Right? So we'll look at saying there's 150 million guns on the streets that aren't going to get off, or not on the streets, but that are in ownership, that aren't just going to be fucking turned in and given away.
Well, by law-abiding citizens. They're legally owned firearms by law-abiding citizens. You know what I mean?
Correct. So now, how are you going to confiscate all those guns to get them out of people's hands?
Well, what do they deserve to have those confiscated?
Say again?
Why do law-abiding people deserve to have their weapons confiscated? They didn't break the law.
I get that, but I'm talking to the person
if
that's
that happened, if that
in the utopia. You know what I mean? Like, who has this utopian mind state of, like, all guns are banned. So got it. Like, so obviously we got to develop into this utopia. So how are you gonna get all 150, or how are you gonna get those 150 million guns? Are we gonna go fucking house to house, street to street, Way City on these bitches? Like, how are you gonna get all these guns? How are you gonna kick all these? Like, are you gonna send law enforcement to do it? Is law enforcement gonna go like, hey, I'm gonna knock on your door and see if you have any guns and search your shit? Because that's what it turns into when you start getting deep down into the nitty gritty of this utopian mind state of banning all guns, banning anything. And I get it. Like, if you put the ban into place, then anybody you catch with guns will be fucking arrested under felony charges and all this other bullshit, right? So now you're saying that I am absolutely willing to allow someone who didn't fucking hurt anybody, who didn't fucking injure anybody, to go to jail just for fucking having something. Then you start looking at bullshit other types of governments that exist, which kind of goes along the lines of communism, man. Like, just because you fucking have something, like, it falls into it. Like, no matter what you do, somebody's coming up with some bullshit that doesn't make any fucking sense. And as opposed to them actually having some fucking critical thinking skills, they all come up with their ideas and nobody thinks any of it through. It's just like, we're going to just go from non sequitur to non sequitur.
Well, and for me, so like I said, gun thing, You should never look to the government for answers. You should never look for the government to solve. And people, oh, take guns away, take guns away, take guns away. We have to do something. We have to do something. We have to do something. I would bring up the point, like I said, first, you should never ask government for fucking, to help, all that shit, yada, yada, yada. And then after making all the points about how taking guns away wouldn't solve, all that kind of shit, I always try to go personal with people and say, why is it not the first assumption to really change ourselves? If you really want change, what did you do?
Yeah.
Did you wake up and spend all the time you could with your family? Did you spend as much time as you could teaching your children to be good children, to be compassionate and caring, to maybe go fucking be a better friend to their friends? Did you fucking take away their phones? To try to really experience, or get them to experience, good human. What did you do to better yourself and your family and your children, your community? Maybe you should come together. When was the last time you went to a PTA meeting? When was the last time you fucking took your kids out and did team events? When did you become a part of your community and your kids' school? When did you do your part to better your world to try to prevent that? Instead of pointing the finger at a gun and screaming at government to do something, instead of fucking doing what you could to better your world, man. You know what I mean? Like that, and that's the thing. Like that's what you should ask yourself what you can do. Ask your family and your community. Don't fucking point your finger at government. What are you doing, weirdo? Don't do
What is
that, man.
It's
I
the
mean,
government
better
fault.
yourself.
The government's allowing this, but people, and this is why it's all about nowadays. It's fucking propagated. Like people go straight into propaganda, and they're blinded. Like this social media shit is crazy. Like
No, you're right.
these are blinded,
You're right.
completely blinded. Like and then refuse to. When you tell them they're blinded, they're like, "Nope, I've got all the facts and evidence to prove everything this that I'm talking about." Here, Jada, I got all. Hey, do me a favor, text Aurelia and say he's still asleep. Um, it's like I don't get how people became. I'm not gonna sit here and say I'm the fucking smartest dude on the fucking planet because I'm not. Like I'm dumb as shit when it comes to dealing with electrical stuff, and that's why my fucking fan's broken. You know what I mean? Like I'm not gonna sit
I'm dumb
here.
as fuck at a lot of shit.
Yeah, I know what I'm dumb as fuck about. All right, but I use my ability to think off of logic to figure shit out. Right? And people are like, oh, this gun shit is a mental health issue. And it's no, dude, this is a fucking morality issue. Like this type of shit has existed long before the American government existed. The same people that you're trying to get to fix this problem, they've adapted their government based off of fucking feudalism and based off of the Roman governments and all this other shit. And they had these same types of problems. They may not have been fucking a mass genocide with guns, but I'm sure motherfuckers were out there trying to ban arrows and rock throwing at one point. Like,
Well, I mean, people don't know, man. Like that is, you're absolutely right. It does. It sucks when you're having a conversation with somebody, when you can draw historical references offhand, very blatant and well-known ones, and a lot of people unfortunately don't know that. You know what I mean? And a lot of people don't have the perspective of history and everything like that because they just don't know it. So if you tell people, I mean, the American Revolution started with gun confiscation. The fucking
yep,
opening shots at Lexington and Concord were because a cohort of fucking British troops were coming to a place where they had the local gunpowder and munitions stored, and they were coming to take it. You know what I mean? And those were the first shots of the Revolutionary War. In World War II, before the fucking actual persecution of real a rounding up of Jews could really take place, fucking Hitler stole. It was called the Night of the Broken Glass, where they really fucking wrecked and got all the fucking information of gun ownership amongst the Jewish community in Germany, and completely fucking totally went and night and broke all, or they called it the broken glass because it was this huge, um, you know, damaging of Jewish businesses and homes and all this fucking just widespread confiscating of weapons from the Jewish community, and complete destruction of businesses and shit like that. And before Hitler could round up the Jews, he took away all the weapons. You know what I mean? And that definitely has happened constantly in every oppressive government over fucking history. Is they always go for because the one fact remains that an unarmed person is a subject. and an armed person is a citizen. No matter what the fuck you want to look at it in any type of government, that's just a fact. An unarmed person is a subject, and an armed person is a citizen. Because if you're unarmed, what the fuck are you going to do to stop the government from doing whatever the fuck it wants to do? You know?
Heck
So
shit.
it's just the way it is, man. But people unfortunately don't know their history. They don't know what has happened in other countries and other cultures and other fucking places of the world. So they have no idea because they're emotional, like you talked about, man. They're reacting on the way they feel and they're being pumped up by media, politicians and
There
celebrities and
you go.
culture and society. Be
There you go.
emotional, be angry, be hurtful, be outraged, be offended, all these things, and they're being hyped up and it's sad because it's easy. It's easy to be emotional and it's easy to be upset and it's easy to act emotional because children act emotional. You know what I
Uh
mean?
huh.
But of course, try telling that to somebody who's just had a loved one killed in a mass shooting. You know what I mean? And
I mean,
you
I
can't.
could tell them, but the
They're
other
not gonna.
people that are emotional, and that's why I say things like, for lack of a better term, or because you're kind of dealing with the threat the threat of everyone else. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
when you say these things that are completely opposite of the majority, right? They look at you like, and they look at you like you're an asshole, and they try to put you in this box. And the next thing that comes after that is violence. Like that's it. Like more like fucking emotions are dangerous. They are fucking dangerous things. Like, they're good, but they are fucking more. They've done more harm in society than anything else. And when you have people that are trapped in their fucking emotions, they kind of
Feel
want to
exactly.
project all those other those other insecurities on everyone else so that they can feel together and maybe they can heal. But the problem is when you have one little person that fucking says the opposite of the views of those people that are trying to heal, they fucking like lose their minds.
Yeah.
And the next thing that comes after that is violence. Like it's violence. There's no
Right.
room for civil discourse.
No, and
No.
that's why it's dangerous when you start hearing people demonize and vilify the other side. Kill the NRA. Only fucking murderers have guns. And fucking these people are horrible and when you start demonizing the people opposite of you, that is a legitimate tactic used by people to fucking incite violence. Because if you literally can look at people as subhuman, then you can do whatever. And when people look back at World War II and how could Nazi Germany be so fucking horrible to these Jews? Well, for the longest time, Jews are villains, they're demons, they're evil, they're monsters, yada yada yada. And when you hype people up enough and you get them emotional enough to where they're angry enough, and you start fucking looking at that other group of people and start calling them names like demons and monsters and all that shit, it's going to be very easy for angry people to do horrible fucking things to other people that they believe to be monsters. You know what I
Mm-hmm.
mean?
I
And
mean that fact has remained in so many different cultures. Like, even in the
yeah,
American culture, when you're dealing with the black people, or and in the Middle Eastern culture, when you're dealing with fucking the Muslims and the Christians, or anywhere, Palestine, fucking anywhere. Like it's the same exact story, and it's like, how are we as people not fucking learning from this shit? How are we not learning from this shit? It's
we
because
will. We are.
it,
We're learning. We're learning slowly, but it's
I
happening.
feel like the only learning that can happen from that is the movie Equilibrium. That's it. And I've made
it's
that reference before, I think, but it's like, does it have to
well,
come
no,
to that?
man. I don't believe that at all. I don't believe it's again. I always love bringing this fucking fool up because he's so right on so many things. But Jordan Peterson, when he was talking to, it was one of the things I was watching him on. Literally, if because he compares to what we were talking about earlier, worldwide.
Jordan Peterson is the shit, by the way, for everybody listening. Jordan Peterson
He's
is the
gangster
shit.
as fuck. Yeah. Um, it goes to what we were talking about earlier, man. Like all over the. Why are you fucking digging in your butt? Get out of there.
It's all
Um,
right.
thinking of my ass a second ago too. She's good.
It's no matter where you are from around the world, color, creed, whatever the fuck it is, whatever you're doing, you know, if you hold your life, or you live your life a certain way, be good to yourself, to your family, to others, you know what I mean, regardless of religion, race, background, all that kind of shit. And it's integrity. It's a human behavioral thing. Like, he was drawing the line to where, regardless, if you live your life a certain way and treat yourself and others a certain way, it's a happy life, it's a successful life, you know. And if you can really implement that worldwide, but it's an integrity thing, it's a behavior thing, a character thing, not a belief or a policy or a political system. You know what I mean? It's a way of living, and I think that's what it is, man. I think that if eventually, I think human beings will be able to look at a phone and be like, huh, I can look on this thing throughout all of fucking human history and see that humans who behave a certain way because they fucking maintain a certain set of human characteristics, that's not a fucking winning combination. But people who fucking behave another certain way, who embody these other human behaviors, they're pretty righteous motherfuckers, and they live pretty fucking, though it may be very, very um I always hate fucking trying to pick which word to use, but people who fucking live righteous lives, it may be a little tumultuous. You know what I mean? Like, it may be
Mm-hmm.
crazy, because that's what really fucking, that's how you build strong character, is through adversity. So people who fucking are very righteous may go through a lot of fucking adversity, but they ultimately live happy, successful lives because they've had to grow out of that adversity. You know what I mean? They've had to
Mm-hmm.
go through that, you know? So I think that there will be some point in time, through technology, you know, and through the coming together of other people from other cultures and other races, but all saying, hey, if we literally all fucking have integrity in our lives and live righteously, you know, with honor and truthfulness, just honesty, you know, and being an honest person, you know, that's what everybody from everywhere can come together on, you know. And I think I think that'll happen eventually, you know. Maybe
But
not
how,
in our lifetime,
I don't think that shit's gonna happen
not in our lifetime, but I think
in our
eventually.
fucking lifetime.
Yeah.
Maybe like 15 generations from now,
Well,
when
that's
we get
why I
into
mean,
like
this one, man. I
when we
mean,
get into like the next age.
her grandkids.
Yeah, I wouldn't even say my grandkids, man, because these fucking kids nowadays are nuts. But you know, I don't think it's gonna happen with it. It would be a good thing to say, like it'd be a good thing to think, like yeah, like
Well,
our generation's children are gonna be fucking
here's the thing, man.
righteous.
And also another historical reference is, even in the worst times of the worst kinds of crisis throughout history, throughout the world, amidst all the crisis and anarchy, a lot of really great things arise from that, because in those fucking times of horror and crisis, people whom are fucking extremely convicted and being, you know, honorable and righteous also come out of that. You know what I mean? So, as bad as I think the future is going to be, the opposite side of that is there will be some amazing things to come out of not only our generation but the young generation, her generation. You know, I mean, because it
She just
happens.
nodded her head no though. She shook her.
She says, "I don't know what the fuck you're talking about, Dad."
She like pops. Shut the fuck up. Like what are you talking about?
Dude, she tells me to shut the fuck up via, you know, those eyebrows all the time. You know, yeah, huh, baby?
Yeah.
Yeah, I know you do. I know. But that's another reason why, like, I know that's, I mean, you share a big reason in that, and doing a lot of the things we're doing because of the world I want her to grow up in. You know what I mean? And I know the same thing for you, man. The world you want AJ to grow up in. You know what I mean? It's just scares me. You know, scares me.
It's a scary thought.
It
It's a
is, man.
scary thought of, you know, I feel like it's a damn shame that at some point in my life I'm gonna have to sit down and talk with my son about like being perceived as black in America.
Well,
Like I
man,
feel like as far as being able to fucking protect him. You know what I mean? Like him being able to move and maneuver on.
You have to expose
on
him to what he's going to experience.
Huh?
You have to expose him to what he's going to experience, to what he's going to
Yeah,
be
but
exposed to.
it's a shame. It's a shame that I have to do that. It's
Yeah.
a shame that I have to. It's a shame that I have to lecture my niece on the repercussions that she's gonna have if she, smacks another broad out on the street. You know what I mean?
Well, you
Or
gotta
the
tell your
things that could
son,
happen.
yeah. You're gonna have to tell them, like, look, there's gonna be people out there that one, they're gonna fucking like for AJ, man. You're gonna have to fucking tell him. There's gonna be a lot of fucking people who look like you, and who look like fucking AJ, and be like, they're gonna tell you that you should only fucking listen to and hang out with people who look like you. You know what I mean? And if you look like us, you have to think a certain way and dress a certain way and act a certain way, and you're gonna run into people that are gonna tell you that. You know what I mean? Just like I'm gonna have to fucking tell her, she's gonna run into a whole bunch of fucking people that are gonna tell her she's got to be a certain way to get a man and look a certain way to get a man, and that getting a man is important and all this kind of shit. You know what I mean? And Sarah and I are gonna have to expose her to and tell her to, like, look, you're gonna have to fucking be able to discern between the people you want to hang out with and listen to and the people you shouldn't. You know what I mean? And what sucks is that the people who are going to tell you those things are probably going to be really nice and really sweet, and they're going to be the cool people or the fucking, and they're the ones that are going to be telling you all this fucked up shit. You know what I mean? And how do you tell a kid that the people who are cool or the people that you want to hang out with are the ones that are probably they're doing and telling you the things that you should fucking be the farthest from? You know?
That's the trouble because my niece, she listens to what the fuck we're talking about. She listens to what we say. She may not apply what we're saying
Yeah.
immediately, but she comprehends it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like she's not a dumb girl. And they don't listen. They don't understand. They don't fully apply what you're saying until they get that "I told you so" that you shove in their face. And it's like, okay, did I stop? Did you hear me stop talking and everything too?
No, I mean you were still going. It was right after you were talking about the niece not being a stupid girl and
Oh
fucking only
yeah.
listening.
She's not dumb. Like
Yeah.
she knows what's going on. Like you know what I mean. It just takes a minute. It takes a
Well,
minute for them to catch to it, and I get it.
it's not even that, man. Like kids and young teenagers, children are extremely smart. They're just extremely ignorant because they have zero life experience. And that's what's funny, man, is that I mean, it's not that they're dumb. You're just ignorant as fuck because you've never experienced anything. And that's what, like you said, when you have that I told you so. So when you tell a young person that, hey, this is what happens when you go through a certain thing, and then they go through it, and then you go, yeah, now you have that experience. I told you so. You know what I mean? And it's not only until then they're like, oh man, maybe I should have fucking listened. But
All you can see is the whites of my teeth.
yeah, say half the time all I see is your teeth. Oh baby. That's actually kind of scary looking. Yeah, that's actually kind of creepy. Oh shit, dog. That's scary looking.
Yeah.
Oh baby.
Oh, there he goes.
Is he awake now?
Maybe not. He's not up yet.
Yeah.
I gotta text my wife real quick.
Yeah, give me a sec, man. I'm gonna fucking put her down for a nap. She's gotta go. I didn't realize what time it was.
All right.
All
You
right.
want to end it and then come back?
Yeah, yeah. Let me get. I'll stop it right here, and then I'll just give you a call back.
All right.
All right.